You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
This week on Carlie's Couch, we discuss romance as a way of life.
Welcome. Happy 2025. Welcome to Carlie's Couch. Carlie and I are excited to be here, excited to keep talking to you. We're going to keep advancing our lives, as always, because that's just what we do. That's what our couchers do. Do the fans have a name? The Carlitos? I don't know.
Actually, we're gonna go with that. And
it should be like the couch potatoes or something.
I like
that makes more
potatoes.
sense.
Yeah, couch potatoes. But Carlitos is funny because I talked about this before, but the bruhs from OU called me Carlito and Carlos. Mm-hmm. So like that's just funny as hell.
I like calling Carlos too. But how has the beginning of your year been, Carlie?
Man, I sound super excited and like a cartoon character, but it's been very peaceful and very chill. I have eased into this new year. Mm-hmm. New Year's never really feels like New Year's to me because it's not. It's like scientifically like not even that. It's just a Gregorian calendar New Year. So spring always feels more like an actual fresh start. All of that to say. So I've just been embracing this winter and resting and going real chill.
Yeah, same, because it's nice to have this time of year just knowing like nobody's really on their email that bad and, hitting you up too much and you kind of get to chill a little bit. Fortunately, my ops, shout out Buddy Israel, shout out Dominic J. Jones, who invited all of the friends over to make Christmas cookies and got every single person sick. Because every time I see him and his kids, they noses is dribbling and I'm never going over there again. I have a lot of anger in my heart about it. He had me at home with the 104 temps for multiple days. For people who know me, know I do not be going to no damn hospital and doctors because I feel like they'd be wasting my time. However, I had to go to urgent care, got on antibiotics. So like I'm still trying to heal up, but it kind of sucked because actually, let me change that because if I had a regular type of traditional work, it would have sucked because it's like, dang, at least do this on somebody else's like time, like not over the break. However, I actually can't really afford that anyway to be out the count like during regular like working time. So, but yeah, I spent my kind of Christmas break and going into New Year's. I had to cancel all my New Year's plans and all the beginning of the year stuff. So I just been kind of chilling. But the positive thing out of that is because I haven't really had a desire to drink, do any drugs, do anything, because it's like I kind of just can't. But also like I just, your body doesn't even want you to. Like I don't even have the desire. But I could tell I've been mad sharp. So somehow, like this last week, I just been like working and like, oh shoot, next thing you know, it's like 8 hours instead of my usual like, kind of like by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's because I'm not stepping outside every 20 minutes. So, I've been thinking about that and how it's like, oh, I'm a little clear right now, outside of, just getting over sickness. But it's been a cool start to the year. I know sometimes, Carlie, you have like a word for the year. Do you have any thoughts going into this one?
I do actually. So I was like, oh, I don't have any. It kind of dawned on me yesterday or today. So perfect timing for this. Last year, my focus was on centering joy. And so really learning how to center that in my life and what does that look like? And I think I did a really good job. And then this year, I want to focus on playfulness. Like I want to play and have more creative play and more play and more fun back into my work and things like that. Like life, it can be very hard and it can suck sometimes, but I think sometimes like I've gotten caught up in taking it too seriously and like letting stuff just be so heavy. And I don't want to do that shit. I want to have fun. I want to play. I want to bring that playful energy and that curious energy into everything that I'm doing. And so this year I'm about to be playing. I'm excited.
That's cool. I have a criticism of that because I feel that every time you have a word, it's always something you already very heavily do. And like that's already heavily a part of your life. But I understand too that, we don't always like see everything, right? So like maybe you don't feel that you do that as much or that there's more space for that. But I feel like you do that all the time, every day. So
So, and to
that's
be
my
fair,
criticism of that. Like I
I,
almost want to hear you one year be like, I'm gonna work extra, extra hard and just go hard. Cause I'd be like, you play all the time.
well, to be yes, and to be fair, like Stacey Ann literally called me on my birthday and was like, "Where you frolicking at? You gotta know you with your frolicking ass. You be frolicking," and I
Well, I
do,
mean,
and
yeah, on your
I love
birthday.
for sure. But also, that's just a way of life. But what I'll say is, like, I think it's more of an internal thing. Like, I let stuff, like, I beat myself up about stuff and have felt so heavy about, like, not being in certain places and doing that. So maybe it's just a playful energy. I'll circle back. Working hard will never be, like, my focus. I do work hard, but I don't want that to be my energy because then that just begets more working hard, which sounds crazy, but that is what it is. I want to work smarter. So maybe if I was being real on that side, like, systems. Like you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I had to have a system for my closet. After we talked, I got a system for my finances. I got a system for working out that I like did great job last year. So maybe it's just enhancing my systems playfully.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make you change your name, your word, excuse me, but I'm just saying like that you basically that's kind of what you always say you're doing with everything is making it playful or like playing and having that air of things. For me, my the word and it actually there's a phrase with it too, but like that I'm bringing into focus for this year. It really actually started to your point about like not really having a focus on like January 1st is the new year, but for me in December is already when I was kind of thinking a lot about like, all right, girl, like what you about to do a little different or what's the focus and all that. So I've had it kind of like written down for a little while, but mine is certainty. And with the phrase of like certainty beyond logic. So just really having that very clear understanding of like standing, 10 toes deep and like, this is what I know I want to happen. And also the certainty beyond logic that like literally everything, anything happening is all working for the good of what it's going to be. Right. So I think what that means for me is just like, even when I was kind of redirecting and correcting myself with talking about being sick, it's just like, but what did I get out of that? What do I need out of it? Without it being like, how sometimes it's like if something bad happens and you're like, well, at least this or at least that. Like not really like that, but just still seeing like, well, it is what it is. You can't change certain things. And so what does this play in the story? Because still like how can you move through all the things in that way? I got put on to I do not know his name. I'm about to look it up real quick though. I want to say David. What's this man's name? I'm gonna find it for you right now. His name is David Guillaume, Ghiym. But he's like a spiritual teacher with Kabbalah, and I don't know much about Kabbalah like that for real. But I was listening to him as the guest on School of Greatness, like in December sometime, I think. But the way he was talking about stuff, I was like, very interesting. And like when you first hear how somebody speaks about stuff, then I was like, well, does he have a podcast? Does he got some other stuff so I can kind of see if if I'm still rocking or if it's like, okay, that was just like a good interview. And that's like his thing is like really about certainty, manifestation, and all of those things, but in a way that's not just like think about what you want, like not necessarily just like that. Yeah. So I went through his podcast too, which he only has like 22 episodes, but they're all like 10 to 12 minute long kind of episodes. Nice. But it's almost like listen to like a little mini sermon type vibe or something. But I've listened to all of his too. And I think that's part of also where, when I first heard him talking about that, the idea of certainty. And it's just like, how can you like always kind of just like be at peace type of vibes. So that's what I'll share with you now to check him out and with the listeners. I'm like talking like I forgot we're doing podcasting right now, but that has been kind of a good like set the tone going into the new year. And also, like you said, with the finances stuff, I don't even remember where I first saw it, but with YNAB, YNAB, you need a budget. I started using that app at the end of November. So it's perfect timing too, because then I was able to set it for December and do all my things. And I love it so much. And it makes me feel like I'm actually being responsible and I'm thinking ahead and like, it's one of those things like when we had an episode and we talked about how like you can't improve a thing unless you know where you stand, kind of like when you talk about weight, but like you don't know how much you weigh, or you don't even know how much calories you're taking in, or whatever, the goals may be. So in that case, that's like one of my biggest things. I realized like I got to tighten up on my money, because I always have it, but like also I'm just now like admitting it to myself and telling myself like the wealth I want to have, or like, all right, if I'm having all this money come in, like what would I, if I had $1 million tomorrow, it probably would be gone in a month. If this was me like a little bit ago, well, probably maybe still, but yeah, probably still. But you know what I mean? Like being ready for it, because I'm always talking about how like, yeah, that one year I was mad rich and I was making like 50K a month and da da da. And it's like, ain't no reason for that to have not done anything else outside of that time. And as I see opportunities and as I have certainty about the things that are happening, it's like, all right, well, I need to be better prepared and know what I want to do with the money and how to make it grow and blah, 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 blah. So I just feel like I'm being a little more responsible, still having fun and still doing all the things. And it's just like within a scope of like actually knowing what's happening. So that's like my report for top of the year. Like this could have been the episode, low key, but
right.
but what we want to talk about, couch potatoes today, is romance as a way of life. This is something we were talking about a little while back, and I love romance. I don't think I always saw myself as a romantic person. Actually, I know I didn't, and I think I couldn't because of how I don't want to say bad, but how non-existent my communication was. I don't think you can be a romantic person and be a closed off type person. And I was that for a long time, maybe until like, I just have a big difference from like 35 up for me within the last, 5 to 7 years of communication and all the things, which in that time, I'm like, I know I'm super romantic now, or like as a person, how I can be. But I haven't always been. And I just recognize that when I see things online and conversations about people talking about romance, and usually, of course, in a relationship type vibes, dating and all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm always scrolling. It's like what are people talking about right now? Like, and it's not like how much your date costs, and it's not, they bought me this, it did that. Like, that's just not quite what it is. And for me, that's what I would call like romance in the traditional sense. I think is like being asked to go on dates and being given flowers and chocolates and opening the door and all those things. And I think that's great. And I think looking at it as a mindset, because some people are just not romantic people. But when I think about people that I consider romantic, it's more than just like doing a thing. So Carlie, let me actually stop talking to ask you, like, how would you define, or what do you feel like romance is beyond like, just that traditional sense?
I think that romance is, great question. It's one of those things is like, I know if I'm trying to put words to it.
I'm sorry. But you're like, great question. Like, it's not the whole episode.
Yeah, no. But I actually like pondering it, right? So I think it's being intentional and being very thoughtful and being like aware and paying attention. I think it's paying attention. I think it's being intentional when you love on people, when you show up for them, like getting them things. But I think it's like when you talk about it being a way of life, I really think it's that intention and attention that you're like that investment that you're making in other people. And anything to kind of make someone feel special. Like, I feel like that to me is like romantic. When you think about friendships, when you think about romantic relationships, like even romantic at work, not in a creepy way, but like people who are just really thoughtful and intentional and show up and kind of like love on people in the way that they like to be loved on, which is not sexual. For example, Lala, she was on the podcast last week, like her love language is acts of service. And so when we worked at the gym, I would do things because I know that that's helpful for her and it's not extra for me, but it like means the world to her. And I feel like that is like something romantic, like with friends, like in the way I'm showing up.
And also one of the biggest things that I take away from what you're saying too is it requires you to actually listen and know people and pay attention to people to be romantic, because just because, and I think that's why sometimes it's like, just because we went on this date and it cost $800 doesn't necessarily mean that was romantic. If you didn't even really, like, it's not like there's anything below the surface of like, oh, this was a restaurant I mentioned, a couple weeks ago randomly, or like, that part of it. And for me, when I think about romance as a part of, as a way of life, for me, it's just like, it's a way, it's how you do things is what makes something romantic. It's how you do things.
I got a perfect example. So you said like, it's not a restaurant that you mentioned, like, okay, it could also be flowers. Like if you're doing something to check a box, it's not necessarily romantic just because you do the thing. Like you got me a dozen red roses, which are beautiful and I'm grateful, but you don't know what my favorite flower is. You've never asked, you've never paid attention. I like pink roses. I don't like red. And I'm not saying I'm not grateful for the thing, but the romance in that is knowing what I love. I might just want one single peony. And that means the world to me because it was my grandma's favorite flower and it was this, versus like doing stuff to check a box or look a certain way to outside people.
That's exactly right. And I have exactly a similar story where I was in a relationship where, they knew I really love flowers, and they got me a flower subscription. And for me, I was like, oh, that's cute. I like that. And I got my flowers, I think it was like a monthly, right? The first month I got some flowers and it had, they could put something on the note and da da da. And I got that and I thought it was so cool. Month 2, I got my flowers, but the people, they put the note in, but there wasn't nothing on the note. So now I'm like, oh, like it's not quite romantic to me anymore. And now I feel like, okay, it's just something on autopilot because you couldn't even take the moment to like at least write the thing or like update them with like, okay, this time let's say this. Like you still didn't think about anything. And so it wasn't quite the same. And my father's photo on my phone to this day, like on his contact, I remember one time I came home, this is probably like 10 years ago now, but I came home to North Carolina visiting them. And that I tell people like my dad's the most romantic person I know. So like that's also why like y'all don't be doing enough. But he came home one time. He came home and had like a single flower that he gave me, like a single, like I think it was like a pink rose. And he's like, this is for you. And also the fact that even in the past too, people who have got me flowers, it's like they can't give it to you. Like it'll just be laying there. And it's like, are these for me? Like, and again, I hear what you mean, because it's always hard when you're like, you're trying to express like, this is cool. And the actual romance isn't there. So then it's like, oh, you're complaining and da-da. And what I've learned now is like, when those are the kind of things that you kind of have a complaint or criticism about, then that kind of just lets me know that person's just not really a romantic person. And maybe that's something for me to think about and like, all right, let me either not date them or have a different expectation, if the other things are awesome or whatever, right? But it's such a big difference, even just being handed something and looked in your eye and being like, I got this for you, or I thought about you, or whatever. And that's so much simpler, so much more, even more inexpensive. And which is why like people always say like, it's not about money at all. But like I walk into the house or I walk into the car and it's just like, there's a bunch of flowers on the thing, but you're just looking at me like, what's up? And it's like, okay, I don't know. It sucks to feel like when you complain about that stuff, but also I'm like, man, if y'all just knew that little bit more that it takes to make this actually do what you were trying to get it to do. Yeah. But it doesn't take money at all. I think it's just about the thoughtfulness, and people like being able to reflect and understand like what you actually care about. And so maybe that is a thing too. Maybe that is valid to like not quite be okay with it, because if somebody does like you or care about you, and also I'm not talking about like people who just met you. If you just got me a dozen red roses and you just met me, then that lets me know a good sign. Like, okay, we thinking about stuff, it makes sense. And as you continue to get to know people, or even like you said, with friends, work, whatever, right? Outside of just like dating, how you do the things are going to be more appreciated when they are a reflection of like, you are paying attention. So understanding what does this person like to how do they like to be shown love or whatever. Like that, what I like is the thoughtfulness. I don't really care how much stuff costs, especially when I can go buy my own flowers and go do my own whatever things. So it's just not about that, but it lets me know that you don't know me is what it lets me know.
Yeah, you're not taking the time, like even with not writing the card for that flower subscription, you're not even taking a moment to
I was
be
cool with the
intentional.
subscription. I already knew you didn't have to think about it, but I'm like, damn, you didn't think about it at
You could,
all. It's like,
yeah, it's like you could do like a little something. You know what I mean? And I think it's just that extra attention, intention, that extra listening, and thinking about how to make someone feel special. I also think about it as like whenever people propose and they do like a big thing. What if the person didn't even want that? What if they don't like public attention? What if they're very socially awkward, but you went out and got a very plain "Marry Me" sign with rose petals?
You see in the video, do it, oh, do it. Meet me at the altar in your white dress.
Which that song is not even romantic, to be all the way clear.
Right.
Look, shit, let's get married because we getting older, and why the fuck not?
Yeah,
that's not romantic. Don't do that to me.
It is whack. And for some people, like I get on a level of like the surface level, okay, romantic song. But yeah, like if they knew us, then that wouldn't be it. And to your point too, it's like that's also what's really, really sad too, when it's like, this is the whole marriage proposal, but it ain't my style, or we ain't, you know what I mean? We had talked about stuff enough for you to understand what I would like. Is kind of like, But one thing I do for sure recognize in like all these experiences, the ones we've talked about already, and just other instances, is I definitely understand that there are barriers and reasons why, some people aren't romantic. And it's hard for some people. I said why for me it would be hard because if I'm not communicating, if I'm not open and vulnerable, if I don't feel comfortable with that, then I also can't receive it. When I was in college, I had the most romantic boyfriend. Like he would blindfold me and walk me to a place, a gazebo where he had made dinner, and he would sing songs to me and make poems. Aww. And at that time, I was the person where I was like, this kind of whack, like this kind of corny, like, but. But I wasn't, I wasn't me now. And also I was always getting told off on like, open up or so like, if I'm not comfortable being open, then I also can't receive. So that's one big obvious like barrier and block to like being romantic. What are some other things that might be reasons why like romance is not straightforward for some people?
If you like didn't really grow up around that, maybe if it's like a secondhand experience, like you've never like done it, so all you've seen is those flowers, like that's where you start. But I think it's interesting because it's easier for people to maybe be romantic. Like for example, guys, like their bromance, like if your dude, like your homeboy loves a certain football team, it's not hard to get him something from that, and you would never get him something else.
Niggas can do that with their friends all the time, but for some reason.
But they be real romantic with each other. And I think that, society and the way that patriarchy like hurts us all is the sense like they don't feel that same connection and love towards women. So they do things because they feel like they have to, versus like, really taking the time to understand and do something in a way that would make all the difference to a person.
And I don't know if they might not want to admit this, but like, it's almost like you can't submit. You don't feel submissive in a kind of certain sense to women in the same way. Like you actually do care more about what your boys think about you than this woman in your life. So that's a thing too. I see it. And also I think too, that is one of the biggest things is just like not seeing it. So like I said, if I saw it from my dad all the time, or if the people in my life, even like my brother, I could tell he must have the same types of things. Cause like the way he will even do things for me right now, or he had some flowers, but had a note on it and whatever, like, it's like real people just know. So if you've never seen that, I can kind of understand that. When I was dating an only child, also, I was like, ooh, like, I don't think they even knew how to think about other people. And it wasn't like they were a bad person, but it's just like, as an older daughter too, like, it's almost like you have more sense and like feeling of like, all right, here's what you could use. Here's what you need. Okay, cool.
The nurturing Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, damn, like only children is just like, hello, like other people
I was
exist.
about to say,
And
but not all though. And I only say that as an only child, but I also think I'm different than a lot of people because
mm,
I'm very like thoughtful. And so, but everybody's always
mm,
surprised whenever they find out that I'm an only child. So to
that's
be
true.
fair, but also just
You don't give only child vibes at all. In fact, you give younger sibling, please look at me and need me like vibes of like I'm a rise above. That's what you kind of actually give. I would think you had
oh,
other people who probably around you got more attention or something like that. That's the vibe I would get.
that was me trying to get any attention because there was nobody else around, but I still didn't get attention, which
Aw,
is fine. But also, I was
aw,
gonna say that could also be a barrier to romance. Is if you're doing things one because you think you have to, then it's not
yeah,
authentic. You're doing it for what you can receive, and then it falls flat with other people. Other people can feel that. Like if you feel like
yeah,
they're just doing something to get something from you, if they're doing something to have a certain status in your life, if it's not just coming from like a hands off place, like because that needy energy. So I would also say that from on the other side, so not opening up, but also like people pleasing and doing things because you feel
mm,
like you have to could be a barrier to real romance in any type of relationship.
yeah. Then that's true too, because sometimes you can tell when somebody just like needs you to give them a validation, and also it's like that don't feel quite right either. Like they're doing stuff for you or with you because they need a bunch of something back. And I've been in that case too, and I don't like that how that feels either. So I get that. But do you think it's better to be romantic?
Yes. What?
I
Yes.
do too. Yeah, I don't. I think if you're romantic people are just it's better. But why I think that is because I think that it's a reflection of certain mindsets that that person also has, which is like life is beautiful. They see beauty. They listen. They care. It's thoughtfulness. It's just like a different eye that they're like seeing the world with. And I do think that's better than like a more pragmatic person or somebody who's just like, well, I got you the flowers, didn't I? Or, well, you're getting the bills paid for, aren't you? Like, that's just not, it's like you're missing the whole point of it. Like, and it's not just about efficiency and productivity and da 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 da. There's so much more. And I think they miss out on the beauty when they're not romantic.
I think the importance of romance is paying attention and being intentional with people, but making them feel special and feel loved and feel
Mm-hmm.
seen and all of the things that come from that extra bit of intention. And so I think that people miss out in relationships and friendships whenever they don't have that. And so yes, I think that not being
Mm-hmm.
romantic, like not having romance is like that would suck. I don't want that life. I don't want that from a partner. I don't want that from friends. Like
Yeah.
I would say I have cultivated a life and maybe that's because how I am, but like where people are so intentional with me and like they see me and they do little things. It could be the tiniest thing ever, but like just whenever you see someone and you let them know, it's like that extra bit of like thing for their day. It kind of like puts a little
Mm-hmm.
extra pep in their step.
Mm-hmm. And you feel better doing that because even with the same people I'm talking about before, right, who might not have been romantic to me, it's real funny how like when I know how to do things a certain way or set them there, and they're always like, wow, you always know how to make me feel appreciated. And da-da-da. I'm like, okay, so you see it and you feel it and you get it, but like, why you can't do it? But that's neither here nor there. I've recognized that I hate my least favorite emotion is feeling disappointed. And like
Mm,
when I start just
mm,
feeling
mm.
real disappointed about like certain things, and especially in this kind of space, I just realized like, okay, this might not be for me. So a couple tips as we get ready to wrap up on living romantically. The first one that I'll give is just that mindfulness and intention. As an individual, slowing down, paying attention to what brings you joy, paying attention to what brings somebody else joy, what makes them light up, and just taking notes of that, and just trying to better be connected um, with those things. I think that's a big first step.
I think so too. I think that's the most important, and that will be the beginning of romance. If you feel like you can't
Mm-hmm.
be romantic, you're lying to yourself because all it is a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
intention and effort. That is all romance is, and then action. Because I guess if you're not acting, so intention,
Mm-hmm.
attention, and effort and acting. But then the next one is thoughtfulness. Like it doesn't matter how much something costs. it matters the intention behind it, because you can give someone a purse and send in a box. Okay, that's cool. Maybe that'll make their day. But like, how hard is it to add a little note in there? How hard is it to know which color is their favorite, or which flower, or what their favorite food is, like on their birthday? Like, what is that little extra thoughtfulness do versus just like buying them random things?
And with that too, I'll add, like, push your comfort zone and push your comfortability with vulnerability. Because one thing also I noticed too is, like, we all know what a rom-com does. We all know what the lines could be in a combo when you see them, you know, watching it on screens and things. But imagine actually doing that, or like how you say something to somebody, how you touch their arm, how you do things, right? It's like, you know what it looks like, and it's scary to do it sometimes. And so I would say push that comfort of doing that.
And rejection is probably another reason people aren't romantic, and that's real, because if they're not the person for you in a romantic relationship, they might not receive that in a real way. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be romantic. It's just the wrong person, and keep it pushing, and then put that attention on someone else who wants it.
And like you said before too, sometimes that means you doing too much, or like they don't like you, or like you ain't there yet, right? Like, so I think a lot of times I'll see people do that too, where it's like they do a whole lot, and it's like they didn't appreciate it, didn't like it, and it's like they don't even know you. Like, they need all that right now. So pay attention to everything. But this week, I want you to think about how you can incorporate romanticism and romance into your daily life. Start with a small gesture, do something a little different. Also paying attention to the romance that, you know, is coming your way, and the things that you can receive and what you can do, and just see how it feels. Notice how you feel. And let us know at Carlie's Couch on everything. You know, any comments or thoughts you have about romance as a way of life from today's episode.
Yeah, just try. That's it. Literally, just try. Try to pay attention a little bit more. And then I do want to hear, so please hit us. Because I love romance. Romance makes life better. So I'm very excited. I feel like an anime character with all like hard eyes right now.
All the hearts exploding. We'll see you all, and we'll see you next week.